Howdy, and welcome to Broken Tool Garage. This time, we're going to be going over brake line flares, right? And this is a old line that I've done that on, which makes it a little bit more complicated, but that's the way it is when you're working on these old rigs and everything. So the thing is, I got one of the nuts on this 1970 Dodge truck that kind of didn't want to come loose, and by the time I got it loose, it's messed up. So I'm going to be cutting the flare off, putting a new nut on there, and then reflaring it. So if you're interested in that, just hang around for this process. Okay, I'm going to tackle some more brake problems. This brake nut right here, that flare nut, is rounded off and needs to be replaced. Doing a double flare right there is going to suck. So I'm going to try to get the line off. To do that, I need to get it off of I don't know if this is a proportioning valve or just a distribution block. It might have some proportioning in there because there's a little something right there. Anyways, so the problem is I did get the nut to break loose and it didn't tear itself up, but it's bound to the line and the line is wanting to twist. So if I keep going, I'm going to twist the line off. So I'm going to attempt, and I may have to put a little bit of tape on there, but I'm going to attempt to hold the line in place and get my line wrench on there to try to get it broke loose. And I already put some parts breaker on there and wire brushed it. I'm going to see how that works, because I can get this whole line out and do this over on the vise or bench or whatever. And that's going to make this a whole lot easier right there to get that done. All right, it is broke loose, but it's still trying to bind a little bit, but I got it to where I can kind of work it and get it loose. And then once we get it off, then be able to clean it up. Now I'm trying to do this left-handed, and I probably should have done that the other way, but okay, yeah, that did work, did get it loose. I did have to clamp on it a little harder than what I wanted to, but it doesn't look like I damaged it or squished it. So that's the important part right there, and make sure to put the tool where it can, I can get to it. So we're going to do a double flare, it looks like what we got coming up next. All right, got it out. It's setting up on the engine unbuilding for the truck. This S-curve right here, I did straighten it out a little bit so that I'm going to have a better chance at working on it. Now, I got to get this in one shot. So I have the brake line, the old crummy, cruddy, rotted brake line from the Power Wagon, right? Yeah, dirty hand with the equally dirty. So I have it up in the vise, and the thing is I got metal jaws on the vise, so that's why I have the rag on here. I don't want to be eating into the brake line and tearing it up. So this kind of has the same geometry we're looking at, and it's an old line. So I'm going to clean this up and work my double flares on here and get practice in. The other thing I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut that piece off. I don't need that for testing. But this should give me a good idea. If I can get this cleaned up and do it on this one, I should be able to do it on the other one. Like I said, I got to get this in one shot, maybe two. After that, I'm done. I'm going to have to fabricate a new line. I won't have enough line to do what I need to do. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut this flare off. Now, I'm going to use a Dremel to cut it right as close as I can. Then the nut can get off, and then I'll straighten it out a little bit. As you can see, this nut's, we've got a little bit of a bend in there, so I'll straighten that out. Now, you could use the pipe cutter, but you can't really get it in there nice and close, right? So I'd almost have to cut it like way back here, and, well, then it won't fit. So we're not going to do that. So we're going to Dremel this right quick. Get you out of the way. Dremel, Dremel, Dremel. I need to plug in my extension. Okay, technical difficulty solved. Much better with electricity. Okay, you see I kind of nicked it right there. That's not entirely terrible, because I am going to come through and file this down a little bit. And it's one of the things when you do a flare, especially on an old line, if you file that down, because what's going to happen, this metal's old, and when you flare it, you're stretching it. So that's not entirely horrible. Let me go ahead and get this straightened out, clean it all up real good. You don't want any dirt or anything on there. You want to get a good grip on it, and I'll file that down, and we'll get the kit up here and start getting this flare done. And remember, when you do this, to always put your the flare nut on, you know, instead of doing the double flare, not having a nut on, because it don't fit anymore, right? All right, well, I know we're a little ways away, but got it up in here, in there with the correct one. This is 5/16. I flattened it out with my file. That's kind of why I locked it in there and just filed it, looked at it, filed it, got it, you know, relatively square. Did our chamfer on here. Now, this is the Performance Tool Kit. They do have instructions for it. You're right here. Handily, because this board, I'm going to show this because some of y'all might have the tool and the board disappeared. So figure 1, I'm going to set the height. It's talking about chamfer right there, right? I'll give that a second. And then we're going to put the little T down in there. We're going to come and flare it. Now, here's the important part on this. Don't overdo this because it'll squeeze the tube in there, and you'll break it trying to get it out, especially the smaller ones. So that's why I'm practicing, because I need to know how much torque to put on it. Then we'll take that out, and that's what we should have right there, and we're going to come in and squish it to our double flare right there, and then that's what it should look like when we're done with no cracks. Yeah, that's why we're practicing. Now, the thing is, I have not cleaned the inside of that. It is chamfer, and I need to come through and make sure you have no burrs on the inside. So your little tool over here, that's what that does. So you're kind of in the way. Let me move around here. And this thing's probably dull as all get out too, but and it's trying to, you know, pinch my hand because I'm at a weird angle because, well, the camera's in the way. Yeah, make sure you're good there, because that's the other thing that will come in and pinch the little tube that goes down in there, right? And yeah, I know the fan's on because it's already sticky, hot, nasty, even though we're in October now, because I'm in the south. All right, let me get that height adjusted there. I'll tighten these down, and then I'll get the tool out, and we'll watch me mess this up at least once, right? Note, if I make this right here, that thickness, that's going to be way too high, and it's going to tilt over. So we're going to modify from the direction and bring that down to what should be more an appropriate flare. And see, this kit, these little bars flip-flop, so you got to be real careful on getting this good and squared up. So I kind of kick up. So we're doing about half is what we're going to try, because that thickness, it would just fall over and not work right there. I remember that from doing this kit. This thickness of this plate, that your little spacer is not correct for that right there. Note our gap that you can't see. Oh. That gap right there is what we're going to crush down to. Now, come back just a little bit. And if you use a wrench to do this, you go to torque it in. I find it makes it easier to try to wiggle, wobble this thing. I've tried to get it nice and tight because it does rotate, so it's not going anywhere. And yes, the flare nut is on there. It's an important step right there. Before you do this, make sure that's on there. So I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try my little Ryobi impact to try to go the right direction, and maybe it won't twist it. It's twisting. I can see that this side over here is going down, and there's a different gap. Yeah, I hate this tool. I really do. It does this like every time. Now, if I didn't have that nut on there, my flare nut, then it probably wouldn't have done that. All right, we're twisting a little bit, so I'm going to shave off. It's very important. If that starts twisting, you're done. It will not work. It has to be perfectly in line. So we're going to shaky, shaky, shaky. I don't know if one side was higher than the other. I don't know. Torque, I don't know. Go at it again. I'm looking at it. I'm seeing if my gaps are level. So there is a little bit of play in this. Maybe we can get this to cooperate. I'll rotate it that way. Okay, we're looking square. Yeah, it's going to rotate anyway. All right. Find my other tool. We're going to give this a go. That was definitely easier. I don't know if it worked, but that was definitely easier. Oh, yeah, wasn't locked into place, so that's good. Because like I said, it can pinch that in place. Now, I don't know if it just simply pushed this down, which I kind of have a funny feeling that I didn't get these tight enough, and it'll just push the line down versus folding it. And I think that's what we had happen there, is it pushed down. So we get to try that again. See, now you know why I didn't want to do it in the vehicle, because this is just a complete pain to use. It really is. And now I got that too close. So I try to get it in the vise good enough so I don't jump around and act stupid, but and do that, because this is difficult enough as it is without having to fight the tool. All right, I did get a little flare. I did get a little bit of a flare, so that is good. Don't know if I got enough flare, but we're going to tighten that back up. But yeah, I want to check that, because that does happen where it just pushes a line down. It's really annoying. So again, this is why it's not on the vehicle trying to do this. All right, we'll just have to center down good again. I hate this tool. Wish there's some way to lock the stupid thing down, but alright, that ought to work. Like, I have the vise on it clamped really good, and yeah. I wonder. Ooh, I got an idea. We're going to rotate the tool like this, and maybe that will help now that I got it clamped down. All right, and you're probably not centered, so let's see what we look like over here. Back you up a little bit, and well, let's turn you like this. How about that? How's that look? Does that look better? I bet that does. Okay, whatever. It's YouTube. Non-professional. Alright, I'm going to use the wrong end. Come in here. Now this isn't... Oh, that's better. Okay, let's see what we got. The metal did bend. We're going to check for cracks and all that. Get it out of here first. Those are probably 12 millimeters, and I'm using a half, but you know, whatever works. We are a little crooked. I don't know. See, you can't see that. I want to show you anyway with a dirty hand. So we are beveled, but I don't think it folded it for the double. Right there, we're almost double. Yeah, it didn't grab. It didn't. I think I need to add a little more height. That way it can grab it and double it, fold it under. So that's essentially just a single flare at that point. We're not doubled up. But I don't see any cracks. We are a little bit wobbly, but I think I'm going to give that another whirl and extend that. See, remember we did half? So I'm going to go a little more. And the reason I didn't do the whole thing is because it's, see how this has tipped over, especially the old line. This whole thing I want to tip over, and we might see that if I go more than that. So I'm going to go about 3/4 and see if I can get a little bit to lip over. So I'm going to cut this off, reset, blah, 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 and we'll see what it looks like on the next round. All right, here's exactly why I'm going to get one shot at the real thing. See this nut? There's a bend right there. It can't go back any further. And I have no room to flare. So to do this, I'll have to take the nut off to do my next practice run. So yeah, again, exactly why it's important to get it right the first shot. The other thing is, you notice I don't have handles on my files. Well, that's because those actually make good deburr tools. You just don't do this on a drill press or any kind of machinery, you know, holding it like that with a drill press, because you're going to shove it into your hand. You know, you have a little bit of common sense, right? All right, I think we might have it here. I do see how it is folded over, right? It didn't look like it kinked over at all. So we may have it here. And I'm going to trust it's bulged in. Unless I undo it, I'm not going to know that. So we got our chamfer over there. I think we're looking good. I'm going to go ahead and not mess with it. And put this in. And see what we get. We get my hand and everything in the way. Scoot you back a little bit. This is working so much better doing it like this, so I'm just going to say that right now. Now, this still will kick around and stuff, so I still use the impact for the final, but I can get a little bit more torque, and I can see what's going on and have a little bit more hand control over it. I don't know if we got it or not. I'm skeptical, because I'm just skeptical about using this tool. It may look a little better. Peel up the ones that I took off on the you know, the original one, and compare the original one to what we got the first time and the second time. Or look at another end, you know, from an actual factory one, and double check it like that, so that cheesy picture they got on there. And yeah, the nut is off of there because, you know, like I said, I couldn't. Alrighty. Oh, that flattened out. I don't know if that's what we need or not. It looks nice and square, so I need something to compare it to. Aha, here's one. That's the factory one. We're looking pretty similar there. No cracking or anything. I think I squished it a little more. I could have squished it a little less, but I think that will work. So we are, if I look at the screen, a little bit crooked there, right? So what happens, this whole hat right here, the reason I'm not doing the whole way, see, it is a little bit tilted. It'll tilt like that and be completely crooked if I get too much height on it, because like I said, this is old line. New line probably would not do that. You can't have it happen, but we are getting a little bit of tilt to the hat part of that, the flare part of that. So I've got to be careful of that, because if it tilts too much, it's just not going to seal up, right? But I'm happy with that. I think half might have worked, so I'm going to continue with, I'm going to try 3/4 and then maybe not squish it in as much. I can always put it back up in there, right? And make sure the nut's on there, make sure the nut fits the line that I have over there. And I think that's the technique we're going to use here. So let me take a break. Well, it won't be a break for you, it'll be like 2 seconds, but and I'll get back to this.